Zellnor Myrie took over Eric Adams' Senate seat in 2019. Now he wants to do it again. But first he has to get through a contentious Democratic primary. So my first question to you is this. There are lots of people who want to run for mayor. How do you plan to differentiate yourself from everybody else who's running?
Marcia, I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I spent my whole life in the city. Would not be who I am today if not for this city. I went to public schools here. My parents, when they came from Costa Rica, worked in factories when they got here. I went to Brooklyn Tech for high school, Fordham for undergrad, Cornell for law school. I was able to work at one of the best law firms in the world, not too far from here at Davis Polk, and ran for state senate to represent the same district that I was born and raised in. So I'm a New Yorker through and through. I think New Yorkers care about two very basic things. They want to be able to afford to live here, and they want to feel safe here.
Okay.
That's the kind of mayor that I want to be. I want to wake up every single day thinking about how I can make the city more affordable, how I can make it more safe.
Well, one of the things you've talked about is building more apartments. You have what I would call a moonshot plan. You want to build a million apartments, 70,000 a year. Now, I would say to you, where, how, why, how do you make this happen?
We used to do big things in this city. We built the Empire State Building in 13 months.
Stunning.
Stunning. But we used to do big things here. So when people tell me, all right, Z, you want to get 70,000 units a year, you want to create 700,000 over 10 years, you want to preserve another 300,000 in that same time period, I say we absolutely can do it because we used to do it in the 1920s.
Yeah, but we haven't done anything since the 1920s.
Well, I think that's why New Yorkers are looking for some new leadership.
I mean, that's like a century ago.
That's exactly right, and here's how I plan to do it. I want to do three basic things. I want preservation, I want protection, and I want production. On the production side, I think we need a combination of rezonings. I think we need to loosen up some of the statutes that make it harder to build. But I also think it's important for us to look at areas that are already dense. We've already made some changes to the law on the city and state level that allow for that type of building. We need some creativity. A lot of the neighborhoods that we take for granted today didn't exist back in the day. Co-op City, Battery Park City. It took somebody that had imagination. It took somebody that had the political courage to do it. I want to get elected on this mandate to create more housing, bring up the supply so we can bring down the demand.
But do you think you're going to have to go to landlords and say, we're going to give you tax abatements and tax breaks? I mean, how are you going to do it? I mean, it takes money to build housing. Where is that money going to come from? Is it city money, state money, federal money, private money? How are you going to do it?
Part of this is going to require some incentives, but that's actually not the majority of the plan. Part of my plan is to incentivize the market to build in places where they've already demonstrated that they want to build.
Tax breaks?
So I think there should be some tax breaks, but that's not the majority of the plan. Part of what I want to do, for instance, is to revitalize NYCHA and actually get the resources in to meet the capital needs.
But how do you revitalize NYCHA? Do you have to rebuild it, or do you take land that they have there and build new housing on the land that's available?
I think we got to do a little bit of both. I think we have a lot of land, as you mentioned, that is underutilized, and so we have an opportunity to build there. And I think we also have people that live in apartments that are in disrepair. I used to represent Brownsville in the state senate.
So how do you repair them? I mean, they're living in them.
So some of this is going to require for us, and this is going to be by the tenants and the residents' choice, for us to offer them the opportunity to either get repairs or to wait for a new unit in an apartment. I think that's going to require some creativity.
And where's the money going to come from that? NYCHA depends most of the money from the federal government. And the federal government right now isn't exactly a big friend of New York City.
That's exactly right. And part of why I think it's important that we build on the underutilized land is that we can have some mixed income to help provide some of the revenue that we're going to need for those repairs.
So look, you're hardly a household name. How are you going to get people to know who you are and focus on you as a candidate?
It's early. It's January. This race is going to be in June. We are really excited because we have raised the requisite amount of money to get public matching. I'm excited because I've got donors in every single city council district, in every community board district, and over the next couple of weeks and months, I'm going to be talking to as many voters as possible. I think we're going to have enough resources that when people are fully paying attention, we're going to be able to get our name out there.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is the fact that most of the candidates who are running for mayor are running to the left, they're progressive candidates. And one of the messages of the November election was that voters are moving more towards the center. Do you think that you're going to have to change your positions and move more to be more of a centrist in order to appeal to New York voters who are, for a large part, you know, tired of paying taxes, tired of having prices go up, and they're looking for somebody who's going to be more moderate in that area?
I think New Yorkers care about competent leadership that is going to put their needs first. I think any mayor that is focused on making the city more safe and affordable is going to have a vision that resonates with New Yorkers, regardless of where people might put them on the political spectrum. My vision for this city is one in which everybody feels safe to get on the subways and to take the buses.
Cops?
I think we do need more cops.
Really?
And I think it's important for us to say that and be clear-eyed about this. We have a 20-year low on the police force right now. We have Detective Bureau that has been decimated over the past 25 years. We do need more cops, and I think it's important that we also have them smartly deployed. I'm getting on the train every day like most New Yorkers, and we're in situations where New Yorkers are suffering right in that subway car, and people feel threatened, both for that individual and for themselves. So I do think that we need a smarter law enforcement strategy that does require more cops, that does require more coordination amongst the agencies. Marcia, you know this. We got between 2,000 and 2,500 chronically mentally ill people in this city that all of the city agencies know. They know these individuals, but none of these city agencies talk to each other, and there's no single person that is held accountable.
Well, that means that you have to take them off the street against their will, which is something that the present mayor talks about all the time.
Well, I think you got to have the competence and care about the nuts and bolts to actually get it done. What we do now is we send people to Rikers Island where they get worse, or we send them to the emergency room where they cycle right out. I think that there is an in-between space there where people can actually get diagnosed, actually get the help that they need, so that they're no longer suffering and on a real path to recovery.
So does Eric Adams need to be replaced?
Yes, he does.
Why?
I think people are frustrated with what we've seen coming out of City Hall. This is a mayor that ran on public safety, yet we feel less safe. We have an affordability crisis.
But his numbers are down. I mean, he had a press conference earlier in the week where he showed 20,000 guns he's taken off the street. Shootings are down. You know, murders are down. So why don't people feel safe? And you don't think that he, as a former cop, knows how to deal with public safety?
Well, he's demonstrated that he does not have the ability to do that. We've had 4 police chiefs over the past 3 years, the largest police department in this country with instability right at the top. And New Yorkers don't feel safe. Anytime somebody answers me with numbers about safety, tell them you have never met a real New Yorker. Because if I tell you that I don't feel safe and you say, well, technically it's 2% down, that doesn't give me much solace. And in fact, there are categories of crime that actually have gone up. We have more felony assaults, up 21%. There is a sense of disorder in our public spaces, and we need a leader that is going to speak to that and has the competence to get it done.
How do you feel about the mayor deciding to go to Washington to the inauguration instead of some of the celebrations with Dr. King?
I think it's important for any mayor to have a relationship with the president and the federal government that helps New York City.
Well, he said it would help.
We have seen just in this first week of this presidency that Donald Trump has no interest in helping this city, that he is in fact interested in hurting us by attacking vulnerable New Yorkers, attacking sources of our economy, removing federal funding that we need. That doesn't help New York City. His vision.
So did the mayor go there because for ulterior motives?
I think he leaves a lot to be desired. If he is someone that is seeking a pardon, who is in his own legal trouble, and there is a president that can grant that to him, I think New Yorkers are going to ask the question of whether or not he is seeking that pardon and putting himself and his career over that of New Yorkers.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it right there for now. But our conversation continues right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. We are here with State Senator Zellnor Myrie. You know, we've been talking about the mayor and his challenges in terms of the criminal justice system. I wonder how you would deal with corruption in city government. One of the things that struck me over the last week or two was that the U.S. attorney in the Southern District who resigned did an op-ed piece talking about his upset by corruption in city and state government. So how would you deal with the perception that city government is corrupt?
This is so corrosive to our faith in our institutions. If you look at the police department and you see that at the highest levels there are serious allegations of corruption, yet these are the folks that are charged with protecting us, you're going to lose faith in the government's ability to deliver for you. And I've already started doing some of this work in the state Senate. I have passed a bill in the state Senate that said, if you're trying to contract with the state, you can't give me a political contribution and then also be bidding on that. And we've seen some of this take place right on the city level, where there was too much mixing of the politics and the government.
So what do you do?
So I think we have to be clear from the top that there is going to be a culture of integrity, that the folks that we are hiring are not people that have been politically loyal to me, not people that contributed to my campaign, but the people who have demonstrated an ability to lead and execute on my vision.
Do you think that was the mayor's problem when he came in?
I do think so, and it's been demonstrated. We've had multiple resignations, multiple people leaving this administration under either the cloud of corruption or who were simply tired of serving under an administration that had so many headlines swirling around them. People want integrity in their government. They want fresh leadership, not the same old. This is why people are disenchanted with politics. We need someone that's serious about the job, and corruption suggests that there's an unseriousness throughout City Hall.
So what do you do? Do you need, is it more, limiting the amount of money that comes into government from contributions? Is it limiting people who can lobby government? Where do you see this going?
So I think that there are a couple of things. We certainly should be limiting contributions. I think it's important that in the contracting process that there be more transparency, that taxpayers know where their money is going, and that there be actual metrics on how you deliver for that. I'd like to change the office that deals with our contracting so that they are held more accountable and that there's less room for corruption.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room, Andrew Cuomo. Do you think he's going to get into the race? And what, if he does, what effect does that have on the race?
I'm going to leave the predictions to the experts like you, Marcia, about whether or not he's going to get.
Predictions. There's no way to know what this guy's going to do.
I think that's right. But I will say this. You can't have been in power and have been at the helm for years and not done anything about the problems that we are facing right now. My wife and I, born and raised in New York City, we went to the same elementary school in Crown Heights. We want to own a home in Crown Heights, and that feels impossible in this moment. That affordability crisis didn't happen overnight.
Who do you blame for the fact that there's no housing?
Well, I think there are a number of things to blame, but there are leaders that have been in power and positioned to change these things for years, and they haven't done it. If you and I went to a restaurant and we didn't enjoy the food, we wouldn't go back again. Yet we have leaders who have been in power, who are going to come before the voters and say, even though I haven't solved your problems in the past, I'm going to help solve it now. I think people are tired of that, and they want fresh leadership.
So you're basically saying that Andrew Cuomo is a restaurant that nobody enjoyed going to?
Well, I'm not going to go that far, but I'm going to say, look, when he was the governor, he empowered individuals and power brokers that hurt our communities, that prevented a lot of legislation that would help my community. And I don't think that we're trying to look back in this city. I really think we're trying to look forward. So
you're in the state Senate, and one of the big problems in the state Senate this coming session is going to be the MTA and its big, big, big budget gap. It has a capital plan of $69 billion. $33 billion is a gap. How do you solve it? Or do you solve it?
We have to solve it, and I think all options need to be on the table for us to
So we're talking about taxes.
I think that there are some opportunities for us to have to look at taxes, but I don't think that that should fall on middle class and working class New Yorkers.
Yeah, but you see here, Kathy Hochul in her budget already said she wanted to extend the millionaires tax. So where do you go? Do you go down the line and more people pay the millionaires tax, or do you do the mobility tax? You put a bigger tax on corporations and businesses. Where does it go? I think we're going to have a pretty robust conversation about this over the course of the next couple of weeks and months. Do you have something you approve of? Look, I think that we have currently the tax structure has been helping to provide some revenue for the MTA. I'm someone that takes the subways every single day. We have signals
in our subway system that are over 100 years old.
120, actually.
Okay, 120. And we have breakdowns and delays because we have yet to invest in upgrading these signals. I think New Yorkers are frustrated that you have to wait for a delayed train, and then when that train comes, you got to do acrobatics to get in because it's too crowded. They expect their leaders to actually produce to solve the problem, and I think we have to invest the resources in things like signals that aren't always the sexy investment.
So one of the things that I was thinking about, Kathy Hochul proposed a budget, and it includes $6 billion that she's going to use to give refund checks of between $300 and $500 to voters. And not that I don't think people should get the checks, but $6 billion, if you didn't spend it there, you could give it to the MTA. So do you think that it's a good idea for the legislature, and you got to vote on this, to decide to take this $6 billion and send these refund checks? I mean, or is it better to spend it on something like the MTA? I mean, it's $6 billion.
Yeah, look, I think the intention is good, the intention to put money back in people's pockets. I think there may be some opportunities for some smart investments, whether that's the MTA or, frankly, whether it's investing in after-school programming for everybody.
Well, you do support universal after school.
I most certainly do. And part of the reason that I support it is, one, for every dollar that we invest in after school, we actually get back $3.
So take the $6 billion for that. All I'm saying is, you have to ask yourself this question. I'm not saying that people wouldn't like a check for $300 or $500, but in the scheme of things, does that make that big a difference to an individual family where if you invested it in something like universal after school or the subways, would it make a bigger difference in their lives if you spent the money differently?
I'd argue yes. I think it's important for us to be...
It's an election year thing for her, right?
I think that we have to invest in the structural things that have put money back in people's pockets, not just a one-time thing, but something that will continue to do that. So we're going to have those conversations. As you know, these budget negotiations are often fraught and long. And so look,
I've been there, I know.
So I'm looking forward to having those conversations over the next couple of months.
So one of the things that you'd have to deal with if you got elected would be to deal with immigration, the threats of deportation, and the city's sanctuary city laws. Do you think the sanctuary city laws need to be changed?
Here's the thing about our sanctuary city laws. This started under Mayor Koch.
It did.
And then was upheld by well-known progressive Rudy Giuliani. This used to not be a partisan thing. We understood that our immigrant community helped make this city run. Both of my parents come from Costa Rica. They both worked in factories when they got here. I would not be sitting on this couch with you if not for that immigration. We have so many of those stories throughout this city. So I think it's important that we protect the community and also keep the city safe.
But you have a situation where the new president of the United States has zeroed in on the need to deport people. And conceivably, there are people in the immigrant community who've committed crimes. And so the question that people are grappling with is, what level of cooperation should the city give to people who are immigrants in this country who have either been accused of crime, arrested for crimes, or are members of gangs?
Look, Marcia, I'm a lawyer, and I have full appreciation for our constitutional protections and due process. I do feel that anyone, whether they're an immigrant or not, who has committed a crime should be held accountable, and they should be going through the system. But our sanctuary city laws already allow for the federal government to go after individuals who are breaking the law. That has never been different. And what this president is proposing is going beyond the Constitution. It's saying that even birthright citizenship would not be upheld. I'm someone that would not be a citizen today if not for that constitutional protection. And I think it's incumbent on any leader of this city to say that and be not afraid to confront the president. And what we've seen in this mayor is someone who said, I'm not going to say anything. I have no comment on this. I think most New Yorkers are not there, and I think it's important that we step up.
What would you do as mayor about Rikers Island? It's supposed to close in 2027. The community jails are not ready. And there's just a proposal this past week that the Manhattan jail will take another 5 years. So if you're mayor, what do you do?
I think the goal of closing Rikers by 2027 is laudable. I think the principle of saying, look, what is currently constructed and operated is not working and it is having a detrimental impact. So I do support closing it. I think we got to be honest about that timeline and honest about what the obstacles are. So when I am mayor, I think that we're going to have a serious conversation about how we can get as close to that deadline as possible. But if not, really go back to the table and see how to get it done the right way.
But if you do that, you have to get the city council to pass a new law, because by law, it has to close in 2027.
I think it's important to maintain a good relationship with the city council, not just on Rikers, but as a partner in government. And what we have seen in this administration is a mayor that has antagonized the city council and then asked them for their assistance. This is about relationships, and it's not just in politics. This is with any profession, that you got to build relationships. You got to talk to people even when you don't need them, so that if you have to come back and make a hard ask, that they'll be willing to work with you. That's the kind of administration that I want to run.
So I wanted to ask you one question about whether your views of the police have changed at all. I know that you and your wife had an incident in 2021 when you were part of a demonstration for Black Lives Matter and you were attacked by the police. Has that changed your feelings about the police in general, or do you have any ideas about maybe reforms in the police department growing out of your own personal experience?
Look, I think we have to rebuild and revamp our police department. Most police officers who put their uniform on every morning and leave their families have no idea if they're going to return. They are here for public service and to keep us safe. I was never a defund the police Democrat, even after I was pepper sprayed, because I think about my mom, robbed at gunpoint when I was 5 years old. Her worldview on public safety is informed by that experience.
Is your worldview informed by that as well?
So it is informed by that as well. And it's what a lot of New Yorkers feel, that the presence of police helped them. And there's some New Yorkers who don't feel that as well. And so we should have measures of accountability and ensure that when folks step over the line, that they can be held accountable. But we're New Yorkers. We could hold two truths together at the same time, that we want to feel safe and that we want a police presence, and we also don't want folks stepping over the line.
So was your personal feeling about the police changed by the pepper spraying?
It was one of the really tough and challenging times in my life because I am someone that has worked with the police officers in my district.
So was it stunning to you that it happened?
Of course it was stunning, and it was a traumatic experience, if I'm being honest. But even after that experience, I still got up and I still worked with the police officers in my district. I still worked on public safety efforts together with them, because that's what we do as New Yorkers. Even if we have a rough time, even if we have some challenges, we figure out how to make this work. And our police department, our police officers are an integral piece of our public safety ecosystem. So we got to continue to see how we can make it the best possible.
So last question. If there's one thing you want New Yorkers to take away, to learn about you, what would it be?
That I'm a born and raised New Yorker, and that I'm going to wake up every single day as the next mayor of this city, thinking about how to keep you safe and ensuring that you can raise your family here.
Zellnor Myrie, thank you for joining me, and thank you at home for joining me as well.